Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Markonomics 101 presents Hoot Loot, the place you go to be informed, be amused, but never be misled. Behind me, you see Old Glory right here, and we're going to talk a little bit about freedom and freedom of choice and behavior, and how behavior is one of the things that connects both markets, politics, economics, that they are behavioral. They're all behavioral sciences, and they're linked together. They're linked together in a certain way, and that's basically called greed or something like that by most people. But in general, the um, the behavioral sciences, the behavioral type of science that's applied to them is actually very accurate. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. One of them being very recent, for example, paying people not to work. They don't work. So that's behavior right there. That was pretty easy to predict. So today's show is going to be called The Creation of a Nation Being Destroyed by Inflation. And that's really no laughing matter or funny at all. I have seen in my lifetime several countries, and Hitler's Germany was a product of the Weimar Republic, which had a huge amount of hyperinflation. We've seen Venezuela, Cuba, Zimbabwe, a bunch of countries that have just not prospered at all. So we're going to talk about that today, and we have so much information for you guys that it is going to be just great. So please like and subscribe down here somewhere, or wherever the hell it is. And we'll be back in 1 second with the charts. All right, we're going to talk about some amazing stuff. We had to kind of forcibly take a week vacation because of a certain amendment. The First Amendment apparently doesn't fly here anymore, and we said something bad, and oh well, what are you going to do? Anyway, we're glad to be back, and it's going to be fun. Bitcoin is obviously going to lead the pack here. Boy, was I dead wrong last week or what? I thought this thing was going through 30,000, going all the way to 10, and all of a sudden it bounced back. Well, there's a behavior behind that, a behavioral motive behind that occurred to me. I don't know if this is true, so I'm just going to speculate and just kind of talk about it here. But because the U.S. is behind this thing, and we've talked about that, and Bitcoin bites back, and so many other times, that basically it is a shadow U.S. currency for weird reasons, okay? One, laundering money, and another, I don't know, just creating speculation because high stock markets lead to re-elections for presidents and congressmen and senators and all that kind of good stuff, and helps make them rich too. So we're going to start off here with Bitcoin. It actually had a bounce above the 40,000 level, which I thought really it would never go to. So it's interesting to see. One wonders if it's being manipulated. One wonders why this would be happening, especially in light of the fact that, for anyone that doesn't know this already, Bitcoin is a password and nothing else. If you want a password, I promise you, I can give you one for less than $45,000 right now. I mean, a really good one. I'll do a personally custom password for you. And you'll have exactly what you would have paid $45,000 for. And tell you what, I'll take 10% off. All right? So Bitcoin may be rallying, may not be. More interesting though, is this is more indicative of the inflation aspect. Now, I was wondering whether Bitcoin was starting to, suggest there's inflation. So we're looking around for that again. And boy, I'll tell you, it is being hidden. It is being pushed into pockets. No one wants you to know that you're really paying about 10% more this year than you did last year for the same amount of goods. And they all want you to think it's like 2%. Oh yeah, 2%, because the quality got so much better. Yeah, and the box shrank a little bit, but there was still some cereal in it. Okay, so Treasury inflation protected securities. Now, these are very indicative of inflationary expectations, and they're not big enough for, say, the Federal Reserve to interfere with them that much. They're not that concerned with this. They're concerned with things like gold and interest rates. This thing is just a small issue that that goes up with the CPI, which is actually a pretty good way to hedge yourself, even though the CPI is, well, let's say it's not the best measure of inflation. It's a little, we short on that. But we've talked about that before. I mean, last month, for example, big waiting on used cars, and another month peanut butter sandwiches, and it's always X something, never, how X housing, X food, X energy, X wife. So it gets really expensive. Uh, Another canary in the coal mine I like to talk about is good old Tesla and good old Elon Musk. I mean, oh my God. Elon, he is going to go to Mars, by the way. No doubt about it in my mind. He's going to be on the moon next year. And now that Jeff Bezos is challenging him for it, even better. Two people to get embarrassed over the fact that they'll never do it. And I always wondered this too, and I'm going to ask this for those new listeners out there. How is it that the US government would award a contract to go to the moon to a company, SpaceX, that started in the space business 60 years after they did? They did that 60 years ago. They could go there. Now all of a sudden they can't. Wonder why? I'll have to give that one some careful thought. And, I wonder if, well, can't be. Anyway, the Dow is kind of holding in a bull flag. Stocks just continue to creep higher no matter what. And they're doing it on very small volatility right now. There are not big days in it in either direction, except in a couple places where you wouldn't expect it. But, the Dow just calmly going up. The NASDAQ going up very strongly. I did crow. Boy, did I miss that one. This thing keeps going, and the stocks look really great. I mean, right now, without taking into account certain things, the market looks about as good right now as it has looked bad to me in the past. So, not entirely. And I do think that ultimately, inflation, sadly enough, is going to destroy the nation precisely because it is not revealed to you. If you don't know about it, or if you are having it lied to you about, then you are going to make mistakes in how you spend based on faulty information. So, inflation has a way of disrupting everything because it disrupts the very measurements of a good project versus a bad project. So, it gets really hard to, start projecting things. Like you want to build a construction site, and how when you have, 10, 20, 30% inflation, do you project things? It's really hard to, and so you have it has somewhat of an effect of destroying productivity and wealth and stuff like that. The S&P 500 also still looks good. This thing, I give up. I give up. Okay, you win, S&P 500. You win, you win, you win, you win. You're never going to go down ever, are you? Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to ask the Magic 8 Ball about that. Don't comment on my looks, all right? Is the Standard & Poor's 500 going up or down? Well, your mother wears army boots too, pal. All right, well, I guess 8 balls of no help. You know how old that is, you knucklehead? Jeez. All right, so let's keep going. On the small caps, they've been looking, actually like they are in somewhat of a sideways consolidation bull flag. And the market right now, most of the patterns are looking like this, sideways. And most of them are breaking up. And with the exception of a couple, the market looks like it could take another leg up. And I don't really understand that because it's so overvalued as it is. But, the charts don't lie very often. They lie sometimes. I mean, do I look fat in this outfit? Then they'll lie to you, okay? But otherwise, they don't lie. So, if we go into the transportation average, it looks like it was in a bull flag too, and it's about to break out and turn around. And that is consistent with this whole narrative that's going on that the economy is great and wonderful. Well, they're projecting, 6.5 GDP increases and, high numbers like that. But, for GDP to rise, okay, it's really easy. It's number of hours in the workforce times gains in productivity. So if you have the same amount of people and they're 1.5% more productive next year, you will have a GDP 1.5% higher. Now, we do not have the same workforce that we had a few years ago. It's about 6 million lower, something like that. And we haven't gotten more productive that I can tell. So I actually think that some of these numbers are, I don't know, maybe a little fishy. And, they're designed to get our friends reelected. And, we don't want that. We want we want to vote out the incumbents for just that reason. All right. So we're going to go on to the dollar here. Look at this. The dollar's starting to rally here. If it breaks above that green line at about 93, it's actually in a bull phase. And I still can't really explain that other than the fact that it's just less crappy than all other paper currencies. I mean, that's all I can think of that would have the dollar going up, especially when you have a $3.5 trillion deficit. Okay, 3.5 trillion. You think about that. It's like, and we spend 7 trillion a year, mostly on stimulus checks, which I don't get ever. I haven't gotten one of those yet. I promised Ace I wouldn't get mad about that. I always do anyway. But basically, right now they spend 7 trillion or so a year. They take in taxes about 3.5 trillion a year, and the Fed buys about 1.5 trillion a year of bonds, which are ways of borrowing money at really good rates of like 1%, and they put them in places like Social Security that need a security to actually be there in the trust fund. I don't know how much I would trust anybody to put a lousy sinking bond in there that was yielding 1%. I mean, or 1.9% or whatever they do. But that's what they do, and they're doing it for our good. I'm positive of it. They would never do it for their good. They're doing it for our good. Okay, so let's go on here to Ethereum. And I wanted to talk today a little bit about the cryptos more so than I thought I'd want to. This is I express no opinion of value of this, but I'm going to look into it a little bit because I want to know what the difference is between this and say Nitwit coin or Bitcoin or whatever it is, because I think this is real. It does something, and I've never really, because it has never sort of been in the news or caught anybody's eye, I've never really looked at it. In particular, but it's worth looking at. And right now, it's actually come out of a rounded bottom pattern, and it looks bullish. And with Bitcoin having broken above 40,000, oops, we might be moving up again. So we'll see. There are some other ones that will never see their tops, I think. And this is one of them, Bitcoin Cash. Look, it's barely rallied. I mean, the top was at 1,600, the bottom was at like 400, and it's barely rallied off the bottom. I just don't see this thing going anywhere. Right now, the things that are going somewhere, maybe there is still interest in them, but they have the kinetic energy to kind of just go. This thing looks like, just... All right, okay. And Ripple too. Ripple also has not performed particularly well. So even though Ripple is a real company, but not the token. The token is something they sell. So when you have a Ripple, you have the token of Ripple Labs, to be used for, but it's not part of the company. So all you're buying here is a token, and I don't know why a token would be so interesting to speculate in. It'd be like a bus token. Oh yeah, Ralph, I'll take $100 for yours. Something like that. I mean, Buzz token. Or maybe Monopoly chips or something like that. Could you see this big bidding war for it? Anyway, so let's go on to yields for a second here. The 5-year Treasury yield. Oh, by the way, the Federal Reserve was established in 1913. Before 1913, from the Founding Fathers, they had the Founding Fathers represented by the flag that you had. There had been nothing like inflation ever, and then the Federal Reserve came by, and there's been nothing but inflation ever. I mean, basically, since the Federal Reserve has come on the scene, the dollar has lost 99% of its value. And if you look at the 150 years prior to, the dollar was steady the whole time. Now, it wasn't, steady as in 0, 0, 0, but I mean, relatively, it didn't just depreciate. I mean, it went up, it went down, etc. But over time, it didn't lose or gain any value on net. But now, you've lost 99% of the value of your dollar. Okay, so that's the Federal Reserve. That's how good of a job they've done. Let's all give them an A+. The 10-year looks like it bounced off support. And again, this thing is so low. The 10-year is so low. The 30-year too is so low, and they look like they're bouncing a little bit. I'm not ready to say, hey, they're going. But these things, I think that I'd still be very surprised if we don't see 10% by the end of this cycle, because I think we're at 10% inflation right now. I think that they've done a very good job of hiding that from the public. Um, and, companies do that themselves. I mean, a box of Kellogg's cornflakes is going to be smaller and yet the same price, and it's shrinking, but it's not inflation technically because the price didn't go up. Well, you got less per dollar, so yes, it was inflation. Sorry, but that doesn't work on me. It's not a good explanation. Um, Okay, so commodities continue to be incredible, and we see it here in the CRB, and again, 2% inflation, and we've had a 100% increase in the CRB or uh, uh, CRB commodities index. We've had a 100% year over year gain, and yet 2% inflation. How do you figure? Seriously, how do you figure? I mean, I can't, I cannot for the life of me understand that. Um, Real estate, look at that. And real estate is probably the place to be for a long time. I mean, I've thought about this a little bit, and I keep getting asked, well, what do you do in this environment? And real estate has been a very good inflation hedge over the long term. Plus, it provides a housing service to you, the owner, or it can be rented or whatever. But it is something that will appreciate with inflation and will act as a very good hedge. And if you're leveraged, it'll act even better. If you have not, if you have a lot of loans on it that are fixed, you're going to get a hell of a ride from that. And I can tell you that the area where we live, parts unknown, they're going up like crazy. So keep that in mind. And it's not a bubble. It is not a bubble. It is just the fact the dollar is becoming less worth all the time. Um, this is West Texas crude, WTIC. And you've seen that it looks like it may be breaking down. And so there's some evidence that the economy is going through some bumpy period in some respects somewhere, but not that many. This is one of them where I've seen a few bumps. So we'll point those out. Unleaded gasoline kind of stayed near its highs. Natural gas continues to just soar up. There's apparently a pipeline problem somewhere, I know, between Europe and Russia and some other places, and this thing could easily skyrocket. Easily skyrocket. Uh, the Invesco Agriculture Fund we've talked about before, this is food inflation, and this one is now broken up, and it looks like it's zooming higher. I can tell you, food is costing more every damn day. It's really incredible. I mean, you can actually see it. You can actually see it when on the order slips they deliver everywhere because we're going to get everybody sick. We don't want that to happen, so we have to deliver. And frequently stuff is missing. Frequently there are shortages. Frequently, the prices go up. I mean, it's amazing how little you can buy for how much you used to have to spend to basically feed an army, and you can buy nothing with that right now. I mean, it's just unbelievable. One reason, of course, being beef and livestock and all that. This looks like it's in a topping pattern, so watch out for that. It may be in this particular commodity, the livestock, that it may just be a shift of preference, the demand. A lot of people do not want to eat animals that were alive and slaughtered. And so the demand issue is probably as big of a deal here as a supply issue or the bottleneck issue. Sugar is everywhere and used in everything. And I should know because I use it in everything. And that's why I always sound like I'm crazy. And so sugar rushes. But sugar is going to a new high. And, that's a pretty good indicator that all of the foodstuffs are going to move to new highs. Some may not because of various changing tastes or things like that, but sugar's everywhere. So that's why we put that one in. Base metals fund is very basic stuff to construction, zinc and nickel and lead and things like, and I don't think lithium, but some other just basic metals, copper, I think in some cases, and it continues to move up, and it looks like right now it's going to continue to move up to me. So Freeport Copper is probably the largest copper producer, and look at that. It had a rounded top, and now it's had a rounded bottom. So it's had like a sine wave almost. And if it breaks out above the green line, it's going on another leg up. And this thing went up 800% in a year. So copper goes up 800% in a year, is now at its peak, going to go higher. And you're going to tell me inflation's 2%. Bless his heart. That's what they say in the South. They go, bless his heart. You lies. You liar, you. Bless his heart. That's how they are in the South. Whenever they want to insult somebody they say, bless his heart. It always means, you idiot, you. For those people who don't speak Southern, I do. Copper miners as a group are kind of looking head and shoulder-ish, but I'm going to guess that they're not going to end up that way and resolve positively. And I'm going to guess that because of the chart in Freeport, which we just saw. Palladium is, now here's where things are looking really weird. Okay, palladium is going straight down. I mean, it still hasn't broken support, but it has gone straight down for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't know why. Platinum has gone down for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't know why. They're both, industrial metals. Gold didn't go down for, well, actually it went down for months and months. But look at the last couple of days. I put a rectangle around how much they plunged. At one point, in overnight trading, gold was trading at 1680, right at the lowest point in the last 12 months. It was trading so low, and it's still in the low 1700s. I don't know why it's here, other than the fact that someone wants it there, and badly enough to give away something that can only appreciate against the U.S. dollar. It's like real estate. Real estate is limited in supply, so that's why it goes up against the dollar, which is not limited in supply. It could be, but it won't be. And same with gold, and same with silver. And silver now looks like it broke down. I would never believe this in a million years, but this is what the markets are all about. Markets are all about fooling you, making you look stupid. And so I do it pretty easily anyway. And here we go. One more time. Oops. Mea culpa. Okay, we're going to go on to, these are gold and silver miners. And these are the guys that mine the gold and silver that isn't worth that much anymore. And look at that. They just plunged the last several days of the week. I was so hot on these a while ago. I am so glad that, I listen to the charts, because, there are a lot of times when, you're going to be tempted to buy something and it doesn't go your way, but you have a reason that you think is compelling to own it, and the direction the chart and the money flows don't agree with you. Well, the biggest way to get killed is to not give in to the fact that you may be wrong. And it's really hard to admit you're wrong. And sometimes you can even be wrong or you can be right and lose money, or be wrong and make money. It can happen. You can buy something for the wrong reasons and it can make you money, or the right reasons and it can kill you. So, all of that goes into this game, this casino game we call the stock market, and all the other markets. And especially when you're in an age of people being completely out of their minds, which they are, except for me, of course. Because it's human behavior based, it's going to be weird. All right, here's the Apple. Everybody knows that. Not the apple of my eye, though. But it's made a new high. It's breaking out. It's pulling the NASDAQ up. It's now worth $2.5 trillion. $2.5 trillion. I used to have a trillion lying around, and I don't know what happened to it. But, that's a lot of money. Trillion, that's pretty. I'll take up a closet. Amazon first broke up, then broke down. Now, I'm the one supposed to be explaining that to you, okay? I would like one of you to explain it to me, because I sure as hell don't understand why Amazon would go up, break out like it did, and then all of a sudden come back into the trading channel. One thing they did do, though, which was interesting, is they were approached by Bitcoin, and they refused to take Bitcoin. And Bitcoin on that day lost a lot, but bounced back a lot. Amazon actually went down on that news, saying they wouldn't use it. So somehow, some number of people are really ingrained in the fact that there's going to be adoption of cryptos for e-commerce. I don't know why they think that, because, how are you going to use a Bitcoin at a hot dog stand? Here, take some, it's a password. What are you going to do? Slice the top of it off? I mean, yes, they do trade in decimal points and all that kind of stuff, but it's a password. Ugh. Okay. Facebook. I can't gush enough about Mark Zuckerberg, but I'll try to withhold myself today. All I can tell you is scammers on Instagram are everywhere, openly soliciting prostitution, drug sales, you name it, openly. Hey man, you wanna hook up? Stuff like that. Or I can get you some of that Mexican hoopty doo stuff. Oh my God. And I mean openly, it's like openly. And same thing with the WhatsApp and the dating scene, that the dating app that I showed you. I must have in my inbox in the dating app 100 Chinese girls, or Singapore or Malaysian or wherever. I mean, from somewhere. They're Asian girls. They may be Vietnamese. They may be Laotian, but they're beautiful. They're all beautiful. They're all around 30, and they all say the same thing. Hi, how are you? Do you have WhatsApp? Some of them are bots, I'm convinced, because they don't react to being insulted, because I insult all of them. I want to see what it takes to provoke them. So I insult them. Some don't react at all to it. They just give up. Some react, and I think those may be real people, and they may actually be male. And some just don't say anything. But it's interesting how they've been portrayed as being an army of beautiful Asian women. That's how I receive it, at least on Facebook. They are just gorgeous, and there's an army of them, and they all say the same thing. Oh, I had to leave town for 2 weeks. I'll be back in the USA in 2 weeks. But why don't we talk on WhatsApp? Okay, thank you. I already. Oh gosh. Okay, so here's Google. Here's another one that's just a monster. A monster. 150% in the last 15 months. And it had a great earnings report. That's the thing about today and these companies like Google and Microsoft and Facebook and all that. They are partners with the administration. Okay? No more are companies, big companies, and politicians sort of at each other. It used to be the politicians and regulators were sort of acted as a check on big corporations. Oh no, not anymore. What they do is they preserve their monopolies by letting them put other companies out of business. As a matter of fact, they don't even they don't take the time to do it. They just say your shop's closed because of COVID. Okay, and that's it. And you're out of business. And you're only out of business if you're a small business. If you're a big one, you're still in business, and you have no competition. So that's kind of what happens here. That's called a corporate plutocracy, or maybe fascism, but it's a unison, a uniting of corporate and government interests against we the people. We the people who are supposed to hate anyone that doesn't look like us. I don't. Okay, they may want me to, but I don't. I have friends of every color, race, religion, creed, even Apollo Creed. No, he's not one of my friends, but he's tried. I mean, he's called me a few times. Okay, so banks broke out too. They were sort of curling over a little bit and a rounded top. Nope, looks like they're breaking out. And we'll show you a couple of those. Broker dealer index definitely breaking out. That's an incredible sign for the market. There's a whole bunch of product coming. A whole bunch of companies worth 50 billion, 100 billion. It just boggles the mind. They don't do anything. They don't have any revenues, but they're supposed to grow so fast from their 50-cent revenues or something that they pay tens of billions of dollars for these companies. It's just beyond me. But they're having a wonderful time, putting these things out at incredible prices, because nobody's getting a bargain. I can assure you right now, nobody's getting a bargain. I can assure you. You will not be buying low here and then selling high later. I mean, some stocks will go up, I'm sure, for whatever reasons. But the point is, as a general rule, buy low, sell high is not going to work here unless you sell high and buy low. And that's called short selling. And I wouldn't even recommend that for the moment. American Express credit card company, very correlated to the economy and what people buy. So that's why we like to follow it. Perfect upward trend channel. Discover Financial, that was the financial arm of Sears. And it's doing pretty well too, making new highs. Again, credit card companies are very good indicators of economic activity, which is why we include them. Goldman Sachs, the granddaddy of investment bankers, it can only go up. It's a one-way street. Visa has actually broken down, which is kind of interesting. I don't get this. We're seeing an occasional breakdown of things, but mostly not. It's very isolated, and I'm not sure why it's happening here versus somewhere else. I just think that's part of the craziness of the market that you're going to have to accept. You can't make sense of things that don't make sense. And if you try too hard to make sense of something that doesn't, well, you're going to go crazy, kind of like I am. All right, can you get my electroshock therapy, please? Somebody? Oh, okay. All right. J.P. Morgan, the granddaddy of banks, right there, looking good, looking like it's broken out. Stellantis, the old Fiat Chrysler, the praying mantis company of cars, it's breaking up too. It looks like after a little consolidation. Delta Airlines, I guess maybe the name is scaring people away, but it actually does look to me, the airlines look like they're going to break up. And I'm down on the airlines, don't get me wrong. I mean, they have no fundamentals to justify their values, but nonetheless, the charts say up right at the moment. American Airlines, same thing. Look at, it's kind of been a little bit of a consolidation. It broke down, but from here, it could easily spring up. It could easily spring up. What I'm hearing is that there's a lot of pent-up demand for domestic travel. That's where they're doing well. But I don't really see a difference in how the domestic airlines are doing versus the internationals as a group. There's not going to be much international travel for a while, but at least not anything near it. Domestic will be down for 5 years, but it will slowly return. Slowly. FedEx, probably the one or two leading carriers of goods for a number of retailers, and it's breaking down. It started to break down last week, and that's a bad side for the economy. And here we got UPS. Oh, looks like it broke down too, but who knows? It could break up next week. I just don't know. Right now, these are the kind of stocks you have to kind of stay away from because they're all over the place, and the people that are trading them, they're expressing their emotions through how the stock is trading. So what you're dealing with is people on the other side who are so emotional about things that, one day they're hot, one day they're cold, and you're kind of stuck with having to, interpret them or interpret how to navigate those waters with those kind of traders around. Nordstrom's is looking like it finally broke out. Not that much though. This one is still looking fairly weak, especially when you consider it to something like Nike, which is a consumer goods company. Look at that; it just flies, off into the atmosphere. Walmart shoppers, they're doing good too. Walmart's hitting on all 4 cylinders. They've got a lot of goods in stock, and they're doing very well. Walgreens is one of the few that's not. This is Walgreens and another company, part of the Dow. It has stayed down. I don't know why, but who knows? Maybe next week it'll be soaring through the clouds again. Costco, it's always soaring through the clouds. Look at that. It's like doubled in the last, not year, but last 6 months. I mean, Costco's a big company. For it to double in 6 months, that's a lot of money chasing it, let me tell you. All right. And we've got the biotech ETF. These are the guys that make the jabs. So when you have to take your 6th or 7th or 8th or 10th, one of these companies may develop it. I don't know, or they may develop something else that's related to it. I don't know, but that's why there's a lot of interest in this sector right now. And finally, big pharma. I'll tell you one thing: an aging population, and the fact of the matter is, pharmaceutical companies, hospital companies, the demand for them is going to continue to grow because older people continue to make a bigger proportion of the population. Me, of course, being as young as I am, I don't, because if I were a woman, I'd be all over me. I'm still 29. They don't worry about me for this stuff. They just worry that I get into the morphine or something. Anyway, I want to thank y'all for coming out. This has been it's been great. I hope you learned something here today. I've had a great time with y'all, and we're going to see you next Saturday for kind of the weekly review. And please like and subscribe down here, and we will see you next week.